Hello guys and welcome back. A week ago, I asked you guys in the community post to submit your 2025 predictions for the NHL. And boy did we get some responses. 83 of you guys ended up making your predictions. So today we're gonna see what the Grav Gang thinks about who will make the playoffs this year, who are gonna be the big surprises, the big disappointments of the season, and ultimately who will win the Stanley Cup in 2025. So make sure you watch till the end as we're going to be going through every single answer, and make sure you hit that subscribe button for more hockey content just like this all throughout the year. Now, the first division that I asked you guys to make your predictions for was the Pacific. And actually having a tie right at the very bottom with 1.2%, both the San Jose Sharks and the Calgary Flames only got one playoff vote. Now, all things considered, I'm actually pretty surprised that both these teams even got a vote in the first place. Calgary, a little bit less surprising. San Jose, there's somebody out there that has the Sharks in the playoffs, and I respect you quite a bit. This makes a ton of sense, though, with the trajectories of both these teams. There have been some rankings out there, some predictions that have Calgary below San Jose in the Pacific Division. I don't know if it's going to be that drastic, but it just shows how much Calgary has shed over the last year, as they should. They're going full rebuild, and it's exactly what they should be doing. Now, at number 6, not really faring too much better than Calgary or San Jose. With 3.6% of the votes, we have the Anaheim Ducks, who only received 3 playoff votes. Now, for this Ducks team, if everything were to go right for them, I could see a situation where they compete for the playoffs, and that Pacific Division is wide open, so anything could end up happening. I don't think there's much of a chance, but hey, 3% of the vote, not too bad. But now we jump up all the way to 19.3% for 5th place. Only 19% of you guys had this as a playoff team, but they have the Seattle Kraken. Now we jump all the way up to 19.3% here at 5th place in the Pacific Division. Only 19% of you guys had the Seattle Kraken making the playoffs. Now, when you guys had Seattle as a surprising team, saying that Wright Evans, maybe even Winterton step up, Stevenson and Montour have immediate impacts, and Decord becomes the starting goaltender. But I could absolutely see something like that happening if Seattle's star power gets back to more of their 2023 type level. I think they kind of took a little bit of a step back. Players like Beniers, players like McCann were still trying their best, but didn't put up the same type of production. You, of course, have Montour and Stevenson, who I think are going to be good for them now, especially contract-wise. Still not convinced, but I think both of those guys for next year are going to make impacts. So if you see all those things improving, I could see Seattle making being a playoff team, especially in that Pacific Division. Now, jumping up to 50%, right split even between the community. This was one that had a lot of disappointing picks, and it's actually the LA Kings. One of you guys said LA was going to be the disappointing team in the league. The Drew Doughty injury is big, and asking a young Brandt Clark to be a number 1 D is quite a lot. And another person said, I think they're going to be picking in the top 10 with an old top-end roster with bad goaltending. Now, I can totally get this. I made my playoff predictions before the Doughty injury, before the Line injury, and other injuries like that this preseason, but the Doughty one is especially big for the Kings. He has been on this kind of career resurgence, I would say, over like the last 3 years, just getting better and better and kind of laughing at the face of age, and he's somebody that has been so critical to that LA defense. I think asking Brandt Clark to be that number 1 guy is asking quite a lot, but I do think he could be in sort of the shadow of him power play wise. Offensively, I think he can tread water to start things out before Doughty is back, hopefully after the first couple months of the season, but it will definitely be rough during that, especially with the goaltending being a question mark, because it absolutely is. I do think Darcy Kemper will be strong, but his injury history, the inconsistencies there, I don't think you can rely on him to be that great starter, and that could be something that holds LA back. Now, coming in at 3rd place with 80% of the votes is actually going to be here with the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, interestingly, you guys said Vegas's injuries and lack of depth in the forward group will be the reason why they just missed the playoffs. Vegas, I just feel like something is missing from that team. The other teams made bigger moves in the offseason. I think with Anaheim's star power this year, they will sneak into the playoffs just right above Vegas. And then somebody was just completely brutally honest saying Vegas because I don't like them. And then finishing the rest of the Pacific Division, a 95.2% of the Vancouver Canucks and a 98.8%. Only one person predicted them to miss is the Edmonton Oilers. Now moving on to the Central and going on to the rest of the Western Conference and what it could look like. 1.2% you guys also had the Chicago Blackhawks missing the playoffs. Like San Jose, like Calgary, only one vote for the Blackhawks, but somebody out there made it happen. Now coming in at number 7, this was a little bit of a surprise, but this is where you had the St. Louis Blues with 15.7%. Now someone wrote a big explanation saying why they had the Blues in the playoffs, saying the Blues will shock a lot of people. If Binnington was able to play as well as he did last year, finishing second in expected goals against, and with the moves they made in the offseason to get faster and grittier, I think the Blues will make it as a wild card team. I also think their defense has improved a lot this offseason with young guys in Broberg and Perunovic, while also having good veterans like Falk and Suter, and this poo blocking machine in Parayko. I think the Blues will take a massive step forward in the retool. Plus, I think Neighbors and Holloway will break out to be important pieces in the top middle six, especially if they play with Robert Thomas. The skill in this team is definitely there with guys like Buchnevich, Thomas, and Kyrou. I also think Hofer will have a stellar year. Will definitely be fighting for that starter role later in the season. I agree with the Hofer point, and I agree with how young St. Louis was able to turn this team into during the offseason. The Broberg and Holloway offer sheets, of course, were a big part of that. I don't think that's enough for the Blues to make the playoffs, but I could absolutely see a situation where they do, considering how rock solid that roster is all around. Now, just above St. Louis with 18.1% of the vote, we have the Minnesota Wild here. Now, Minnesota was a lot of your guys' disappointing picks, and this echoes what a lot of people said, saying that they didn't have really any key pieces added onto their lineup from the offseason, and they are in a stacked division, which includes cup contenders like Dallas, Colorado, Nashville, and playoff contenders in Winnipeg, and I will say it in the Utah Hockey Club, but they barely missed the playoffs. I get the respect, they'll still make it, but that's okay. Speaking of which, just barely missing the playoffs in the playoff voting here with 45.8% of the votes, this is where you guys have the Utah Hockey Club. A lot of you guys had Utah being close to the playoffs, and some of you guys even had them in, saying that they made decent upgrades. The vibe will be completely different, new city, an actual arena that will hold an NHL caliber crowd, and brand new fans that will bring a positive and electric energy to the players. I have them as a serious dark horse for a playoff spot, and I agree. I mean, I think their roster is great, but I also think getting out of the Arizona situation, being in a Utah situation that's stable, that will finally bring the players less drama, less worry with where they're going to be playing, I think will just result in a better positive situation, and I think Utah's definitely going to benefit from that. Now, not really much of a surprise around this territory. Fourth in the Central is where the Winnipeg Jets go. And then for the top three with 92% is where the Nashville Predators go. With a clean 94 is the Colorado Avalanche. And at the very top, with only one person having them outside the playoffs, is the Dallas Stars. Now, if all the votes tally together, that means the Winnipeg Jets are your guys' wild card one, with the LA Kings at second place with 50%, right above Utah. Now, starting ourselves off in the East with the Metro Division, at number 8, it's not really too much of a surprise, but only two of you guys voted them to make the playoffs, and that is the Columbus Blue Jackets. When you guys said your surprising team would be the Blue Jackets, saying that I believe the loss of Goudreau will give them the motivation to do better. Monahan, especially given that his best friend and former teammate is now gone. Monahan will likely want to win the cup in honor of Johnny, so we will lead the team in points with at least 80. Fantilli, Sillinger, Johnson, and Juracek will all take their next step in their development. Goaltending is still a question mark, though, and I can agree with that. I mean, I really hope this comes true. The Columbus going on this improbable run and making the playoffs would be incredible. I think that players like Fantilli especially are going to have incredible years. Monahan hopefully will be able to avenge his best friend's death. There's so much here that could go right for Columbus, and I'm just hoping that it finally starts to. Now, coming in at a clean 12% of the vote at number 7, this is where you guys have the Philadelphia Flyers. Honestly, a better percentage than I thought they'd get. Number 6 with a very nice 16.9%. This is right above the Flyers with the Pittsburgh Penguins. When you guys had an interesting point with them saying, even though everyone thinks the Penguins are a bottom 10 team, the addition of players like Glass and Hayes to the bottom 6, the scoring will be higher. With expectations of Karlsson bouncing back, the addition of David Quinn will help contribute. Alongside a new power play system with Quinn in it will be an interesting to watch. And can't forget Crosby solely carrying the team into a wildcard 2 spot, scoring 92 to 95 points. And obviously Crosby you can never doubt. Interestingly though, it'll be a big point of contention, the power play for this next year. We know how legendarily bad it was last season. If they're just mediocre, if they're middle of the pack, then that's a serious upgrade for this Pens team. I'm still in doubt over the depth, over the goaltending, how that all works itself out, but there is a situation here where the Penguins are able to bounce back if those top end guys in Crosby and Karlsson are still able to perform at their bests. Now, just above the Penguins at 18.1%, this is where you guys have the Washington Capitals. Now, this was an interesting observation, the Capitals being a disappointing team, saying that they had a great offseason, objectively a better team on paper, but still not convinced it'll show on the ice. Still have major concerns over their offense, bottom 5 last year, and certainly not impossible to think they could rank in the bottom 10 again. And I just think people are expecting too much from a team that had such a big roster overhaul. I expect them to struggle a bit more than people might think, and I could absolutely see the reasoning for that. I mean, the Capitals were barely able to sneak in last year, a lot of that because of luck, because of the crazy Eastern Conference situation there. But to me, I just see how the Capitals were able to improve themselves, what they needed to improve, and even though the offense I still don't think will be amazing by any means, I think they just improved on their strengths. The goaltending, I think, will be even better than it was last year. The defense, I think, is still going to be a great strength. Their systems, to me, with Carberry, are some of the best in the league right now. And even though I don't see, I could see that being like a 50-50 chance to make the playoffs. I think they'll be in that wild card race. I could easily see the Capitals making the playoffs. I think 18% only making the playoffs. I think that's a little bit harsh, but that just might be me. Now, a decent jump up to number 4 at 26.5%. This is where you guys have the Isles. And then to finish off the top 3 at 91% is the New Jersey Devils. At 94% is the Carolina Hurricanes. And only one person had the New York Rangers missing the playoffs, just like the Stars and the Oilers at 98.8%. Now, a few of you guys said the Canes would be the most disappointing team in the league, saying I think the Hurricanes will be the biggest disappointment because I think they obviously downgraded from last season and they couldn't even make it that far last season. And a couple other ones also said the goaltending as being main concerns for this year. And I could absolutely see that. I think the Canes will downgrade quite a bit regular season-wise. We'll see what the playoffs have in store, but I would agree with this that there were kind of downgrades all throughout the roster. I mean, you let go of Jay Gensel and some other key pieces, and Jack Roslovic is going to be okay. He's going to be a good, fast player, but not much more than that. The defense, I think, also lost quite a bit, getting rid of Pesci, and you bring in players like Gostisbehere, and Sean Walker is solid, but I think you get a little bit of a downgrade there compared to what was there before, and of course, Shea losing him to Nashville is a big blow, and you got the goaltending. That is always a question mark, always a concern over whether health will be there, over whether they'll actually be consistent. Kochetkov will likely have to be the starter here, but even he is still inexperienced at this point, so we'll have to wait and see for the Canes, but they're a team to keep an eye on still. But now we move on to the Atlantic Division, which is by far going to be the most interesting division for this next year, and it shows in the polling, because at number 8, by far the best last place team in the league, this is where you guys have the Montreal Canadiens. Even though they placed last in the Atlantic Division poll, 15% of you guys still had them making it. And here's the real kicker here. Out of 83 responses, 4 of you guys had the Canadiens winning the Stanley Cup this year. I mean, I want to have the hopium that you guys are enjoying right now. It would be insane, but some of you guys are thinking it out there. Now, coming at number 7, just only a few points above Montreal, this is where you guys have the Ottawa Senators. Now, even though the Sens only got 18% of the vote, a lot of you guys had them as your surprising team, saying Ottawa without question. The team statistically got the best results on the offensive end. What held them back was goaltending, with the addition of Ullmark, who's been consistent as ever on any team he's played for, including those awful Sabres teams. That should make the difference in getting the Sens back to the playoffs. And this is coming from a Habs fan, so there you go. Now, I personally don't think the Sens will make the playoffs, but I think Ullmark is a huge addition for him, and the goaltending was the biggest issue they needed to fix, needed to resolve. Ullmark, I think, will make that team automatically a lot better. The issue to me is I think that'll improve them by maybe 10, 15 points or so. Is it enough to actually get a playoff spot? That'll be the biggest question, because the Atlantic will, again, be a bloodbath. Now, at number 6, with 24.1% of the vote, this is where you guys had the Buffalo Sabres. One of you guys said that Buffalo, after years and years of trying to get back to the playoffs, they will get back. UPL was great last year, and a full season of him will be huge. I think Levi takes another step too, giving them a good tandem. Everyone a year older, just need a hot start, a talented, big, fast team. And I would agree with this. I mean, one of the main reasons why I see the Buffalo Sabres making the playoffs after pretty famously saying they missed the playoffs last year is I just think some of those systematic changes. I think there was a couple responses that said they didn't have this crazy offseason, but I think the big addition for them was getting Lindy Ruff as head coach. He's somebody that has an immediate impact, and I think he's somebody that will get that offense back to the level it was at in 2023. And you consider the improvements throughout the roster, the youth wave they have coming up, the goaltending, I think, will be a actual strength for them for the first time in a while. And I think the Sabres can make it. They could get really close and not make it like they've done in the past, but I think the Sabres, out of, the big 3 of potential wildcard teams in the Atlantic, in Ottawa, in Buffalo, and Detroit, I think have the best chance. And speaking of them, at 33.7%, this is where the Detroit Red Wings go. Now, you guys were all over the map on Detroit. So a lot of you guys had them as the most surprising team, the most disappointing team. One of you guys said the Red Wings, because they're one of the better offenses in the league, improved goaltending and some added veterans. And then another person goes on to say Detroit, on the disappointing side, to call their goaltending and defense mid would be a compliment. I mean, watch us have all this debate just for Detroit to miss the playoffs by a point or two again. I mean, it feels like that's what we're trending towards, and it feels like that's the position Detroit is going to be eternally in. I hope I'm wrong on that, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, jumping up all the way to 72.3% of the vote here, going into the wild card spots, next up is the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, a lot of you guys had them making the playoffs, but for the people that predicted them to go out of it, it was their disappointing pick of the year, putting a lot of hope in Jay Gensel, who hasn't played in their system before, to replace Stamkos could be a disaster. Their one injury to Kucherov away from Atkinson possibly being on their top line. Their depth has gotten worse, and all in all, barely making the playoffs and losing in 5 games, while while competition is rising in the Atlantic, could come back to bite them. And I would agree on this. Depth-wise, I mean, Tampa has never been great over these past couple of years, at least since they've won their 2 Stanley Cups. But I still think Tampa is in a strong position top-end-wise, and I think that'll be enough to get them there. And I do think they improved their defense, at least if we assume that Sergachev would have had some more health issues there, because it always seems to find some. I think they'll still end up making it, but I could see a situation where the depth really starts to crumble them compared to a team like Detroit, which is all depth. Then getting inside the top 3 at that 3rd place position, this is where the Boston Bruins go. At 95% is the Toronto Maple Leafs, and 98% is the Florida Panthers. Like New York, like Dallas, like Edmonton, every single division has one team that had one person not voting for them. Was there one contrarian that went through this form and was just like, I'm going to pick everybody random? Might have been. Out of those 3 teams, though, easily the most interesting here in the forums was Boston, who got about 17% of the vote to not make the playoffs. A lot of it, of course, because of the Jeremy Swayman situation. One person saying, I think Boston will disappoint the most. Depending on how long the Swayman situation goes for, it really could impact their entire season. They have a great defense, but I don't think the forwards are good enough. And I could absolutely see this. I mean, I think the depth forward-wise is a bit of an issue, and I think they're in a situation where they might have to rely on their recent free agent acquisitions and Lindholm and Zadorov to really carry them. I agree the defense is still great, but when you have Jonas Korpisalo as your starter, it creates a lot more problems than it should. Now, we'll see if Swayman gets traded and if they get a starting goaltender back, but I could see people being hesitant on the Bruins for now. Now, if all the playoff positions locked in, you guys have in the Pacific, Edmonton, Vancouver, Vegas, and LA making it. In the Central, it'll be Dallas, Colorado, Nashville, and Winnipeg. And then in the East, the Rangers, Canes, and Devils. And then you go in the Atlantic Division, where you have Florida, Toronto, and Boston in the divisional spots, with the wild card teams being Tampa and the Detroit Red Wings. Just barely. Only 33% of you guys had them making the playoffs, but it's just enough to edge out the Islanders at 26%. Now, I also asked the question, you guys, on who you saw winning the Stanley Cup, and there was quite a few people saying the Nashville Predators. One of them said the Preds. This is the best chance they will have, as they have an older core. They have all the key elements of a Cup team, from solid forwards all the way back to a world-class goalie. And it's pretty bold, but the Preds going all the way would be fascinating. When you guys say the New Jersey Devils, they finally have a competent goalie, I hope, and the defense is very strong. This is Jack Hughes' year to pop off, and Hughes would definitely be a major help. Now, someone said their Stanley Cup final would be Edmonton versus Winnipeg or Vancouver. Don't know if there's going to be 2 Western Conference teams in the Cup final, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. Somebody said their Stanley Cup final would be Nashville Predators versus the Montreal Canadiens in the East, and I mean, that would be rocking my socks off. I don't even know what I would do myself if that was the Stanley Cup final. Insane. And now you guys see what I was talking about with the Montreal Canadiens in the forums for the Stanley Cup final picks. Between 3 different picks, Montreal twice. You guys are absolute sickos. I love it. But leading the NHL in Stanley Cup picks was the Edmonton Oilers, who won with an astounding 13 out of 83, which doesn't sound like too much, but considering the variance and opinions in these forums, is a pretty strong lead here. Dallas was also close. I also saw a lot of the New York Rangers as well. Those were the top 3. But I'd love to hear your thoughts down below on your guys' picks. What you guys think of the Graviteh Gang community predictions? Do you guys agree with them? Do you guys disagree with them? Who do you see making the playoffs? Who do you see being your Stanley Cup pick? And what was your wackiest prediction? What was the prediction that you just didn't expect out of these rankings? I would love to hear your thoughts down below. Of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Share it with all the hockey fans you guys know online, and click on this card for all of our rankings content right in one playlist. I will see you guys in the next one. I hope you have a fantastic hockey day, and goodbye. Also, forgot to mention, thank you guys for everybody, all 83 of you guys that submitted responses. I know in the community post, it might have been hard to see, but for everyone that did it, took the time out of your day to do it, thank you so much. And you guys made this video possible. So thank you, and see you guys in the next one. Goodbye, y'all.